Cool. So why don't you tell me and whoever's listening what you guys got up to last week? You're just back from a trip.
Yeah, we were on a trip in Hawaii, and on the Big Island. What else would you like to know about it?
Well, you were talking about it. You were tweeting about it. You were kind of keeping people up to date stuff, activities you were doing and things. So let us know what did you get up to for people that didn't see all the tweets, which is including me because I deleted my Twitter app on my phone last week for different reasons, and well, for the reasons everybody knows. And so I missed a lot of them, and I haven't caught up with them yet. But I wanted to hear what you guys were doing. Did you have a plan when you went there, or did you just see who was all there? So for people listening, some people will know the other people you were with.
And then Alex from the Modern Sovereign podcast also joined us. And then another mutual from Twitter named Kellen. His account is Kellen_the_man. Yeah, good guy. Yeah, we had a house right by the water, and we did typical Hawaii stuff.
You expand on that a little bit.
Sure, yeah.
We did a bunch of stuff that you would expect people like us to do on a trip like this. So one of which is we found Eric was very good at Eric had been there many times before, so he was very good at finding local produce, all good, like very good beef and fruit, just all very fresh local foods and all that. So most of the trip was just eating fruit and meat, and it was all grown for the most part on the island. So the dietary staples were very good. We got there's a
very
big running joke.
Very inexpensive too.
Surprisingly inexpensive.
Yeah.
Like all the local stuff was way cheaper than any of the like crap food that you would find at the grocery store. So that was like a big surprise. I mean, we got, what was it, like $4 or $6 a pound for like grass-fed, grass-finished steaks or something. Yeah. Really cheap compared to what I pay here.
Maybe quadruple the price back here in the Bay Area of California.
Yeah.
Yeah. For the same stuff.
Similar here in New Jersey. So you think everybody says how expensive it is to eat in Hawaii, but not if you're eating really good quality food, because most of it's grown right there. So I guess they just are able to cap all the expenses. You don't have to ship it anywhere far.
The cows are all, I mean, the climate allows grass to kind of grow continuously throughout the year. So the cows, it's cheaper to just let them wander around and eat grass.
Yeah.
And import any feed.
So, so that one aspect of it was just eating really good, high quality food the whole trip. We did manage to find Alex some clotted cream, which it was a running joke on Twitter. But
he had to go to Hawaii for clotted cream.
He fucking loved it, Kevin. This guy was in heaven.
Yeah, it's not what it sounds like. It sounds a lot worse than it tastes.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Oh no, it tastes really good.
Yeah.
And he was literally putting it on everything. And rightfully so.
He was really he was just kind of walking around the house. Whenever he was at home, he had the clotted cream jar in his hand with a little bait, like a tiny little spoon. And he was just kind of, having little nibbles of it throughout the day.
Just keeping an eye on it so you two don't go away with it.
Yeah, I got one half teaspoon of it, and that's all I saw. I got nothing else.
I managed to get some on a potato, I think, but that was it. He was in heaven. one thing I learned about Alex is he really, really loves good food.
Yeah,
I
the guy
mean,
was eating constantly.
yeah,
He's a big eater.
yeah. And
That was
it's
an
well, it's not
interesting thing
surprising
that
because all
I
the
think we
food we
all
had
noticed.
was really, really great.
Yep.
What's that,
One thing I
Eric?
noticed is, yeah, we were just, I mean, we ate a lot of food, we were sort of, because a lot of the guys there don't really, some of them don't really eat breakfast normally, they'll usually fast or something, but there was just always food around, always like cut fruit, always steak cooking on the grill. And, I know personally, I was kind of trying to estimate, and I think I was eating upwards of 4,000 calories a day easily, and I lost about 5-6 pounds over the course of the trip. So I was eating well above what would normally be maintenance for me. And I came back in better shape. And the other guys I talked to, and Keith didn't have really anything to lose, but uh, everybody else had the same experience.
What's kind of physical stuff were you doing?
So
Um,
just about every day we
oh,
did something fairly intense. We did a lot of underwater rock workouts. There's a great little bay within walking distance with tons of like old coral and old rocks, lava rocks. And so, the head one, and we'd walk out until we were underwater and try to walk out as far as we could, and then jump up to catch a breath and keep going. So the game was you basically go as long as you can because you have to bring the rock back. That was sort of the only rule. And
Cool.
so you go out as far as you're comfortable, and it's kind of a cool thing doing exercises underwater, because you're held down by the gravity. You can do jump squats, you can do lunges, you can sprint on the sea floor if you're holding a rock of sufficient weight. So we're doing that, and then
an interesting combination that you can't mimic anywhere else, really, because you have the weight of the rock, and you are kind of like, it's different because you have all this resistance around you and the pressure too. So it's all these factors, and then there's the mental aspect of like being weighed down underwater too, holding it. So it's a really it's like an intense way to work out, but it's really cool. Very, very good. And I've never experienced a different way to get that type of physical experience. But it's really a really novel way to
yeah,
exercise.
How did you
it's a
find
bit of a psychological workout too.
yeah, I was going to ask, how did you find putting into action Erwan's breath holding course?
Oh, for me, it's just much harder to actually do it while doing a physical activity. So, like
Yeah.
when I hold my breath for a long time, I'm completely still and relaxed. And part of it is actually doing a meditation. And you can't really do that when you are exerting yourself. So I think I didn't push myself as hard to like hold my breath. I would come up for air a lot quicker than if I was just trying to stay still and hold my breath. But just in terms of my overall capacity and endurance, like I never felt like we did some pretty intense stuff, and I felt like I recovered pretty quickly.
Yeah, we were always ready to go the next day. Yeah.
Yeah. I learned very quickly. So that little like bay area that Eric talked about, the first night we went out there, it was dark, and I ran my face right into a rock because it was dark and I couldn't see all the rocks. And then I tore my toe wide open, and I learned to respect her a little bit more than maybe I did at first.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, well, I was just saying that it didn't take long for me to realize just I don't know how you got to be a little bit more careful there than I had to be a little bit more careful there than I was. Everything's lava rock, so I was just beat up quickly. But yeah, we did some other like stone workouts. It wasn't just walking the stone out. I mean, we were like throwing the stone back and forth to each other. and just different stuff in the water. So we did that a few times, I guess.
It was essentially play, you know, it was kind of,
Oh yeah, yeah. It
just,
wasn't
we
that
were kind of playing
structured.
around
It
with
was just kind of like, yeah, it was playing around. We were just figuring stuff out to do. That was kind of fun.
Yeah.
And before you know it, you got a whole workout in just with a rock and water.
Yeah. You know, we've talked about this before on the podcast, but it's exactly what happens every time you do this is you know, if it was maybe, you know, maybe a couple of the people wouldn't have thought to do it themselves, but you just get one or two people who are like, hey, we're just going to throw this rock around. You know, it's something that, you know, sounds kind of odd to most people. And indeed there were people like, you know, doing some canoeing and stuff, just kind of stopping to watch us because they're like, oh, there are these grown men just throwing rocks at each other. But, you know, it really does, it awakens something in, you know, it awakened something in all of us, and we were all just before we knew it, we were just playing a game, throwing a heavy rock at our heads and having a great time with it. It's funny how that works. I think it works especially well in men because I think we all carry a little bit of a boy in us, you know. I mean, there's another time when we were on this long hike that leads down to a series of black sand beaches. You go up and down through valleys, and each time you come out to a new beach. And we were just setting up like driftwood, plunging it into the sand, and then standing back and, you know, picking up rocks and trying to knock them over, which is, you know, it's just a real simple thing that, you know, little kids would do, but it's fun for everybody. And so there's a lot of that throughout the entire week, just kind of playing with what some would qualify as childlike games, but that were actually kind of tests of skill and strength and endurance.
Yeah,
and accuracy.
Exploration
and
too.
fun.
I mean, on that same hike, we came across these fruit, and we didn't know if they were edible or not. And Alex and Eric especially just started picking the fruit off the trees and like biting into it. And once they started, they couldn't stop. So it was like along the whole trail. They were just eating, snacking the whole way. And Kellen and I both had some as well. I mean, it was great fruit, but that was the other
you wanted
thing.
to check that Eric and Alex to check if they died
Let's see if
first
we
before you
died,
tried it.
you know?
Or well, someone had to carry them out if they're like keeled over or something.
Then you would add all the clotted cream to yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like
Go ahead, sorry.
So the food, when you were eating the food, that's a good example. And you were like, the food you were eating was local. It was like totally integrated into the land where you were eating what came from there. You know, it's like you really are there. You're not like a tourist passing through. You're really like in the place for a short while and then home.
You know, it's an interesting thing is that most of the locals I saw, you know, like, so we'd be standing in the grocery store waiting in line, and you know, I didn't see anybody buying the same stuff we were buying. You know, they had their carts full of imported stuff from the mainland. It was kind of sad to see, you know, but yeah, I mean, I think they seem to be leaving a lot of potential on the table there. So I don't know if it seemed like we were the only ones appreciating the bounty of the island. You know, that might be I'm sure there are people who eat that way, who live there as well, but it just seemed like this untapped resource that I haven't really seen any other people taking advantage of or even talking about.
Yeah. We so that's an interesting concept, Kevin, to be just aligned with like the place you're in. So we certainly did that with the food. I think we did that just with the activities. So we did multiple hikes. Eric, we did a shorter hike, maybe the day before, 2 days before that longer one with the valleys that he was talking about. And he had us just carrying rocks and big log pretty much. So we did that the whole way. It was maybe like a 4-mile hike, wasn't that long, but it made it a lot more strenuous just to carry that stuff. And that was another thing, like you had to get to the end with the rock. Like there's no option to not do it. Someone always had to be either carrying a rock or a log, and we switched off, so you had a little bit of a break, but you had to push yourself too. And that's an important thing. That was also in itself like a playful activity, but it was also serious. Like it was like you had to do it, and there's no getting around it. So
And you
could stop
the
break
others
or
counting
whatever.
on you in a way. You know, you had the other men with you counting on you. 'Cause technically, if it was just you, I got to just push as long as I can to give this guy a break. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you'll go longer than you want to because it's
So it
embarrassing as well
wasn't
to stop.
like people would care for. Be interesting to see and feel. I mean, I felt the same. Yeah. So I guess one way I'd characterize a trip is it was sort of oscillated between extreme energetic at 80 degrees with a nice little breeze coming off the ocean. It was never too hot, obviously never cold. And, visually and aesthetically, the place is just gorgeous. But then you're doing these really hard physical activities in the context of this beauty. And so it was a lot of, you'd be exhausted, your muscles would be just worn out, and then you'd be, reclining on a chair with a cold drink, delicious food, refreshing fruit. And so it was extreme relaxation, extreme output. And I think that's the best way to do a vacation like this, because then you appreciate everything. You appreciate both sides of the coin.
And that's totally different from the normal Western version of you're just on slightly all the time, rather than, you're just this kind of gray zone in between all the time. It's just more draining than doing flat out and then flat out rest.
Yeah.
That every time you ate decadently and relaxed, you earned it. So there's this like a mental component to that. Like you feel more, you can go deeper into that relaxation because you're like, I went really, I really pushed myself. So you feel better about relaxing as opposed to saying like, I didn't really do much today, I shouldn't be lying around. But there's both those, they're enmeshed in a way that is important, I think. Like you can't have those things unless you have both of them, the dichotomy there. And each one is needed to actually draw the poles further apart.
Yep. I think that's a rational and rather natural way of being. Yeah. Because even though we technically could have just lived, luxuriously and not worked for it, that wasn't the norm for most of human history. And so we were kind of emulating that teeter-totter back and forth, which I think really resonates with the soul and with the body. I mean, I think that's why you saw everybody improving their body composition, because they had that balance.
Yeah. I had mentioned something on Twitter and about just putting yourself in the right environments, and like your health gets better, not because you're consciously driven towards being more healthy, but because those environments facilitate being more healthy. So this was just one example. Like we put ourselves in a situation with other like-minded people that are going to appreciate food and physical activity and all that, and in a setting where it facilitated all that. So you had people reinforcing it, you had the landscape reinforcing it, you had the like the vibe of the trip in general, just reinforcing that. So all those things together are your environment right there. So you could put anybody in this situation and they would have been drawn to these things just based on all those contributing factors. And it is very hard to do that and be to be unhealthy in that situation. So I think that it's, and people have talked about it before, written about it. It was like, surround yourself with the 5 people you want to be most like, and all that. But it's the same kind of concept. Have the environment that's going to facilitate the health or wellness or whatever you want to be at. Have your environment shaped to that, and you can't help but kind of fit into that mold. And as long as that's a healthy environment, you're going to get healthier. And like Eric said, he's eating 4,000 calories a day and losing 5 pounds in a week. And it's not for, it didn't just happen. Like the whole situation facilitated that happening.
Yeah. And I wasn't working out, I was just kind of, we were going for walks, we were hiking, swimming, riding waves. It wasn't like I was, I didn't like buy a week membership to the gym, the local gym, and go do reps and sets. It was, it really did feel like a reset, a reset for the body and the mind. I think, it's funny, the environment you're in there is sort of what a lot of people on alternative or alternative health nutrition Twitter talk about. The sunlight, like getting lots of sun, morning sun, watching the sunset, eating clean. It's kind of all laid out for you there. You almost can't help but engage in optimal behaviors. And it's what it does is, because I go there fairly frequently because I have family there. So I usually go take my family. And what I find is it is sort of a reset every time I go, and I'm able to maintain a lot of the things that I was doing there, even back home. So yeah, I think it could be pretty valuable. So if anybody wants to go to the Big Island, I recommend it. It's a good trip.
So you can't really separate how much like just having fun is having an effect on things like your body composition and your weight or whatever. Totally. Just like, if you're having fun, then something good is happening. That's probably what having fun is. It's the signal it's giving you. Yep. What you're doing is working. And also, if you're somewhere that's already beautiful, that's naturally beautiful, you want to watch the sun set and you want to be up early. So you don't need to, I need to remember to see the sun today to get my sunlight. It just happens.
Yeah, exactly.
And then if the food's there, then you're eating the right, if you're eating the food that's seasonal, you're getting the right ratios of different things at different times that you need, that's kind of built into that place at that time for those people.
Yep. Exactly.
There's no stress or need for discipline to actually be healthy in that situation. But like I said, it just kind of naturally unfolds that way. And that's probably a big factor too, is like, you're not stressed out about like, I got to get to the gym today. I got to, get my certain number of macros in for, to keep body composition. It's all, it just, there wasn't even a thought of that. So I think when you don't have that added stress that you put on yourself to maintain your health, just because you're already in a setting that is leading you towards that, that's probably also a contributing factor. Like your cortisol levels are lower and you're just more relaxed about things.
Yeah.
Yes, some of the other things that we did too. We did a day out kayaking and snorkeling. There's like whales in the water all the time. One of the coolest things, we were at the beach a couple times, and Eric goes to me, he's like, go under the water and listen. And you go under the water and you listen, and you could hear the whales singing off in the distance through the water. Like, that was so cool.
Amazing.
That was incredible.
Yeah. So, like they had to have been, I don't know, at least a mile away or something, but through the water you could hear them. So yeah, in that way, it's just another connection to the land, to the animals, to the environment around you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. After we got back and we were talking some more, Keith and I, we were like, this is something we could totally do for others. You know what I mean? We could, we could have some sort of eco fitness retreat where we actually invite 5, 6, 7 people to come along with us and do the same things we were doing. And I'm fully convinced that it could really be a big reset on multiple levels for a lot of people. And
that's the first thing I thought when I saw the pictures of you guys in the sea with the rocks.
Yeah.
Straight away, I just thought this is an event, a regular thing.
Mm-hmm.
This is something to do. And you could easily have, if you had regular ones throughout the year, different places like that were integrated into that place, so it was the equivalent of what you did in Hawaii and in the whichever place, foods, exactly the same principles. And then you could kind of, each person through the rest of the year could kind of be doing things to keep the thread running in between. And then you have the big reset, but you're like doing your own work in your own place and kind of sharing the kind of principles of the way you're doing it in your place. And then someone will get ideas in their place, and there'll be things, something's right under your nose that you could have been doing or using that you don't even think of until you see someone doing it in a different place. You're like, oh yeah, we've got that. That you just, or it'll remind you of the way the kind of your ancestors in that place, or the older people in that particular place would have had their exercise built into the landscape, as you said. Like from where I'm from, village in the remote Highlands in Scotland, and the traditional fuel there is peats. So people would go and cut peat, which is like the ground. They would cut bits out of the ground with this big kind of metal tool, and then they would stack them up to dry, and then you would take them home, and then once they would take ages to dry, especially in Scotland. They would half dry, and so then you would take them home, and they burn really slowly on the fire. So I mean, that was your all this people would do that in the summer. They'd walk away out to the hill. People had their own bits of land. They would cut all the peats, and then you would carry some of the dry ones back, and then you would cut some more, stack those up to dry, and then carry some back. So you were like, this is what you did. You've worked out all summer so that you had the fuel for winter. So there was like a rhythm throughout the year of the rest. You were resting from one thing and working out hard and another thing. It was kind of built into the place. Place is probably the right word for it. But for doing a retreat type thing, you could just build that into wherever you went.
Yeah, the location, I mean, you could do it in a number of locations. The nice thing about Hawaii was that you had access to the ocean and mountains and the food and everything like that. So it was you didn't need to travel very far. I mean, I think the most we drove was maybe an hour and a half to get somewhere, but it had all these different landscapes and topographies and types of environments, climates, that you could move through and experience in such a small area. I mean, for me to do that kind of where I am, I'd have to travel 10 hours in any one direction to get from a beach type environment to a mountain type environment or anything like that, to have that all consolidated in one place. And it's warm and tropical, but you could really do it anywhere, have it and like you said, tailor it to to any environment. But yeah, that it's something that we're really considering, and we'd like to gauge a lot of interest, because we think people perhaps that listen to this and just know us from around Twitter would also be interested in the same thing, and would want to do these. And obviously, it would be good to get people beyond our sphere as well, because a lot of people could benefit from it. Just seeing things through this perspective and experiencing it, it is a reset. It's uplifting. You learn a little bit about yourself. You can test your limits, see what you're willing to do. I mean, there were some things like that same hike with the valleys that Eric talked about. We went on a lot of trails that we didn't know where they would end. So we didn't know exactly how I mean, we knew that we could get back to going on the same trail that we came in on, but we ended up not doing that. Like, we got to the end, we're walking through like this thick bamboo area. And still, like, even in this place where it's just like, it's literally like bamboo from shoulder to shoulder, and you're kind of like weaving your way through. We found macadamia nuts on the ground, so there's like food there. Then we got to this open coast. We hacked open a couple of coconuts and ate them. And then we took like the most treacherous route back that we could, because it was we did it along the coast, and it's all just rocks. And like the rocks are shifting because the coastline is the waves are just crashing on there. So you're kind of making your way across these rocks. You have to go out into the water a little bit. So as there's these waves crashing through, you're kind of stabilizing yourself, trying not to slip, making it around like these the areas where like the cliff face came out, and then you continued on, and hopefully we would be able to get back to the trail where we parked the car off of. And my point is that, like, you're pressing yourself to see like what you can do in a situation where you don't know what's coming next. And thankfully, at the end of this, we were blessed that, like, there was one area where you could not go around unless you went out into the water and swam around it to get back to the beach that we had to get back to. And luckily, or by divine intervention, I don't know, I'll let people decide for themselves, but there's like a 18 to 24 inch like cave that we had to climb through to get back to where we needed to get back to, because otherwise you had to go, like I said, in the water, and probably have to swim out quite a ways to avoid getting smashed up against rocks and then come back to shore. And we didn't know what was there. Like I said, my point is that people in your normal day life, most of what you do is expected, or you have an idea of what to expect. But you go on an experience like this, one, it's new people that you may have never met before in person, and that's like different. And then you have layered on top of that all these new experiences that were like completely novel, and to be put in those situations as I mean, when's the last time you really are put in a situation when you didn't know, like, you didn't know how it was going to work out? That happens more so when you're a kid, but it doesn't happen when you're adult as much. And a lot of that is just like rediscovering like what it is to be in unknown situations, meet new people, and for those reasons, I think that's why it feels like a reset, and you are imbued with a little bit of like that childlike curiosity, and you're more playful, you're more open, and it's as if these situations breathe more life into you, and it's a really cool thing.
Did you have that experience? I felt that time was passing more slowly, I think, because everything was very novel.
Yeah, I didn't even think about time at that point.
Yeah.
So like when we were doing stuff like that I was out of time, so to speak. Mm-hmm. Like I knew time was passing, but I wasn't thinking like, wow, this is going fast or slow or anything. Yeah. It was, I was just out. you get sucked into the experience so much that it didn't register to me.
Yeah, because more in retrospect, I was sort of amazed at the amount of experience that was packed in to the 5 or 6 days.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And that, I mean, it was something that I had mentioned while we were there, but like that type of environment, like I had never been to Hawaii, so that entire environment was novel to me. It was all new. So even I got out of the airport, and there's, you know how you have like airport birds, like pigeons and stuff that just roam around when you're waiting to get picked up. So obviously they have some type of Hawaiian bird there, and it's just like a shitty little dove or something. But I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh my gosh, this bird is beautiful. But it's like their Hawaiian pigeon. But to me, it was new. It was new, and it looked different. It was exciting. There's like different flowers and plants there, and the sky is different.
It smells different, you know. There's
Yeah,
sort of this
yeah.
floral underlay across the entire island.
Yeah.
You know?
And as you change elevations too, that was another thing we noticed. Like you could smell the difference. You could smell when you're closer to the ocean. You could smell more earthiness when you're up in more mountainous areas. Even a little bit of like sulfur, I guess, from volcanoes if you got high enough up. So yeah, all of it was new, and it's exciting. When's the last time you really get to experience completely new stuff all the time for a week on end? You're a child at that point, or the equivalent of that. And yeah, it's very cool. I hope that we're able to bring that to other people, because I think there would be a lot of interest.
Yeah.
People would enjoy it, and they would. It's just enriching, a very enriching experience.
I mean, I've already got a fair number of inquiries from that link we posted on Twitter. So, yeah, people are interested.
What was the so anybody? We could also mention it here. Anybody interested in something like this, and they would want to join for like a small group of people to get together and do this. I think it was there's an email Eric set up.
Yeah, Retvrn. It's RETVRN.trip TRIP @gmail.com. Just if you are interested, just drop a note there and let us know.
Well, I would definitely like to do one of these in Cyprus at some point this year, if we can work out dates and
awesome.
Times and stuff. So it'd be pretty cool to have regular we could have European end ones, States end, take it from there.
Yeah.
But Cyprus obviously has its own island situation going on, not similar in some ways to Hawaii, but obviously different in other ways. Which would be pretty cool. We were talking about on Twitter, so that would be the one. That would be the one I would be looking at some point this year. So obviously, whoever wants to come, let us know.
Yeah.
That'd be we're going global here.
Yeah, we've gone global. Can't stop it now.
Yeah, all these faraway places. I mean, I had to travel like a third of the way around the world to get to Hawaii.
One thing I know,
still in the same country.
What did the moon look like in Hawaii? Did it look different from the
stars were all shifted for you, right, Keith? All the constellations.
Yeah.
So for you, yeah.
That's another thing. Beautiful stars.
Yeah, we drove up. We drove up to nearly the peak. We got stopped by a ranger before we got to the peak at night one time, and the stars were amazing. So my one reference point was the constellation of Orion. And normally for me, where I am in New Jersey, Orion is in the southern sky, and it kind of moves along the southern sky at night. And in Hawaii, it was like directly overhead. So it's just the difference there in like seeing I had a better spatial realization of where I am on the globe by seeing where the constellation is in the sky. Because obviously, if you're closer to the equator, the southern sky is going to be more overhead. but the stars there are amazing. I mean, the only other place that I've been that has had stars that clear and numerous was Wyoming. And this may have been better than that. You could see like the Milky Way galaxy, and it's so incredibly beautiful. And it was fucking cold too. It was like 30 degrees up there. But yeah, it was well worth it. The moon, though, I don't know. It didn't occur to me if we had much of a moon out there or not.
It was just, I noticed that in Cyprus, the moon in the north of Scotland, the moon in Cyprus are completely different. So the moon here is just bigger. It goes in half in a different way, so you'll get the bottom half of the moon here. You don't get that in Scotland. And the moon, I've seen the moon go under the horizon. At night it went into the water, disappeared. Never, you don't get that in Scotland. Obviously, we're closer to the equator here because it's pretty far down. Like people hear Cyprus and they think Greece, so they just think kind of Mediterranean, just off the island, off the land, main part of Europe. But it really isn't. It's far more south and east than people think. It's closer to like
Africa,
Lebanon, Israel, and and Africa. When you see it on the map, it's quite surprising. And moon, I just can't believe how different it looked. And just it's like so alien, and obviously, and you get really red moons here, like really red, like almost as red as Eric's sauna in this image here that people can't see. But yeah, it was just like shocking to me. But I also had the same thing with Orion's belt. It was like, that's not where Orion's belt should be. And the sun obviously is more closer overhead here as well. So all these things change your orient. Yeah, you just feel different when these things are going on. That you can't really. You have to be in the place to know. You can't imagine it.
Right. Yeah, I when you had mentioned about a Cyprus meetup on Twitter like yesterday or something, maybe a couple of days ago. Anyway, I looked it up on the map because I never actually looked where Cyprus was. I thought it was like I think there's Crete is an island off of Greece.
Yeah,
and I think I maybe associated those. Yeah, but yeah, Cyprus is like south of Turkey and very close to. It's like the Eastern Mediterranean. I didn't realize it.
Very much, yeah. It's when there was I think I mentioned it before in here, but there was a big explosion in Lebanon, some factory or something blew up, and I could hear it from here. I thought it was thunder, and it turned out it was that. So it's not that far. It's like half an hour on a flight, I think, to Israel.
Yeah. Well, I'm just looking at Cyprus right now. Yeah.
It's really surprising.
That's how far it is. Interesting.
But
so
I mean, for
if
you
I
guys,
made that one, I would have to. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying. So you guys, it'll be a long trip, but
yeah, if I made that one, I would have to travel halfway around the world just in the other direction.
Yeah,
I've flown to Turkey before. It wasn't too bad. It was a direct flight. So I'm sure there aren't any direct flights to Cyprus, but you'd probably fly into Istanbul, I imagine.
Athens or London. You can go to London. Okay. London, right. There's tons of flights from. Well, in normal life, there's tons of flights from the UK and Athens, the two main ones. If you were coming here, you'd probably want to go via Athens or on the way back or on the way here anyway.
Yeah.
I would recommend
it. Seems like normal life is rushing back in very quickly. Hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if assuming it is, then I would like to arrange a meetup. One of these meetups also in Athens would be good at some point.
Yeah, there are a lot of people like in our sphere, so to speak, that are European too. So
yeah,
that would obviously not be as difficult for them to travel around there. But yeah.
Yeah, let's do it then. Let's make it happen.
So it's official. Psychophysical World Meetups happening in a on an island
Global.
near you or far away from you?
All over the globe. Only islands, though. That's one rule. Only islands.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably not a bad rule, actually.
Yeah, except for Staten Island.
Yeah, not going there.
No. Yeah, I don't know what else you guys got. Or I mean, we could keep on talking about Hawaii too. That was great. But
yeah, keep talking. So what? So like as a question, then what's something that because obviously you were just get down to doing practical stuff when you got there. What was some ideas you had while doing it that would be good that you thought, oh, this would be a good idea to do meetups? Like what kind of general principles can you pull from what you did that would work pretty much anywhere?
I mean, for me, I would love to show people kind of my the way I cook, like the way I approach food.
Awesome.
How how I think about ingredients, cooking over fire. I think it'd be fun to kind of if we are on one of these retreats, I would be there as sort of it could be a perpetual AMA, about anything related to nutrition or all the stuff I talk about. I would just be there, if you want to talk about whatever, because that's something I can do for days and something I've been thinking about for years.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest with you, Eric, it kind of was an AMA. I felt like I was asking you a different question every 2 minutes.
You were. It was great. Yeah.
There was actually a point in the trip, and I'm like, why the fuck am I even asking you this? Like, I should just do it. Like, but I felt like my default was to, maybe ask Eric. He knows what to do. Yeah. So
it was like, how should I cut this mango or something? Like, what's the best way to peel this mango, right? Or something like that.
I'm like, why am I asking? I know how to do this. Like, why am I even asking?
Yeah.
But again, that was because there's like food that I had never seen before. So I was like, oh, maybe he knows how to something special about this fruit that I should cut it a certain way. But
I'd say that's like, because obviously we all have our own things that we do, and we're talking about them all on the podcast or whatever, and how to integrate things. That's something that would be really cool in a retreat for some people, to have all these different pieces forced together and pulled together in some way, and they would normally think of them as separate, like they've got these in different boxes, and then we'd all just they would be all there all the time for people. It would kind of, as well as like being a reset, there would also be it would like open up a whole kind of worldview to people that they wouldn't have had otherwise.
Yeah, I think that would be the idea too, is like people get introduced to stuff and they can act it out, ask about it, work on it while they're there, and then also go back home and incorporate that into your normal life. Because obviously, like, a retreat is not normal life. It's like a special experience, and you can't do it all the time. It's just not realistic.
Yeah.
But to be able to pull the things of value about your health, your fitness, your nutrition, just general wellness and well-being, and reincorporate that back into your life and introduce those things to your friends, your family. I think that's like the most important component, would to actually be to take those skills or perspectives that you obtain and integrate them back in a way where they continue to nourish you in your normal day-to-day life that you have wherever you come from.
Yep.
Yeah, I think about. Sorry, I'm gonna go.
I was gonna say, we talked about sort of making like changing society. Obviously, I think we all agree that can't really be done by some edicts from top down, but I think it can happen from individuals changing the way they live and affecting the people in their immediate circles. And that's when we were talking about making this a retreat, that's what really spoke to me, is the notion that we might be able to actually make some broader changes in a really bottoms up organic way. It'd be nice.
Because you're introducing people to a different way of doing things, or like a different way of looking at things, or it's like without getting too mystical about it, but like it's like a way of being that then kind of the person picks up on, like say, even if it sounds more, even as like if the way your way of going around cooking and stuff, Eric, that would kind of spill over into the person's way they start thinking about it, and they just start doing things slightly different. And the next minute, 3 months, 6 months later, they've learned this whole, that's like kind of kickstarted this whole learning to cook and ingredients and things. And then you're getting like an example of other people, and then obviously it wouldn't just the people you would get on it would have their own thing. The people aren't going to be beginners; they're going to have something, and then people just learn to plug different things together, and to then just do it in their own life in between. And then there could easily be like some kind of organizational online connection between people in between retreats and people sharing what they're doing in their own place, and just see what happens. Just as you were saying earlier, just you don't know an unknown situation, just put it together and see what happens.
I think with a lot of the stuff that we talk about on here and people post about on Twitter and whatnot, a lot of it is, it's very abstract, but this was a cool way to see all these, some of them seem like extreme concepts or, ways of eating or moving, like going barefoot everywhere. It seems a little extreme, but then you go to one of these things and you're like, oh, these guys are actually barefoot everywhere. They're actually doing all these things that you've read about and posted about and retweeted. And it's like, this is actually a way you can live and be a relatively normal person still. So I think these would be a good way for people to what's the word, concretize some of these concepts that they've maybe just, dealt with in the intellectual realm. It makes it real.
Yeah, when people get that,
and it helps to have. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, it's like when people get an aha moment of, oh, this way of dealing with this part of my life, whether it's fitness or food or whatever, or academic stuff. Oh, this applies to this. They've trained themselves academically to think in this way or whatever, and then realize that as an example, Eric's, the way he's going about ingredients is thinking. It's not just like it's not like, it's not just like a chimp throwing stuff randomly. Well, maybe you are a bit like that, Eric.
Kind of is.
But like there's like a thought process and how things go together, and and like experimenting stuff. It's a type of thinking. This is one example.
Yeah.
And there's many things like that where you just need them. You need the two things that seem separate just colliding together, and then some third thing appears that you didn't realize, and now it becomes part of your life. And then all this stuff's real, and things do go together. It's not some weird abstract thing that people are just talking about online to have a something to talk about, a niche.
It provides more of an invitation too for people, like if say they hear something strange on this podcast, or they read it online or something like that, and they're like, I can't do that. Like my friends are going to think I'm weird and all that. Like this actually gives you the opportunity to test out some of those things for yourself. It gives you the invitation to say like, okay, these are a group of people that actually want you to test out some of like the weird health and physical stuff that you only hear about, that you may think it's just weird at home doing it yourself. But in a setting like that, you're invited to try those things out, and you don't have to be so self-conscious about it, because everyone is just like also trying those things out and actually want you to do it too. And everything may not be for you, but at least it's a very open platform to test those things, and to also like bring an element of yourself and try to bring elements of stuff that you are maybe just uncomfortable with in a different setting at home, just because it's weird to do stuff by yourself sometimes. So I think that's like an important component of that is just an invitation to try the things in reality that you may only ponder in your head otherwise.
For a certain type of person at the right time in their life, this might be the type of thing that snaps them out of a depression or anxieties, or it's like the it's the thing that kickstarts them going off on a different path from where they were. Obviously, that's depends, but because there's so many things involved. If you're living a very, let's say unnatural, rigid life, like a simulated life, and then to be thrown into all of this stuff at once could really change you, or not permanent, not on its own, but really change what then you do after, where you go after, compared to what you were doing before, and definitely compared to just looking at stuff online.
Yeah. So this kind of, I don't know how far down this path we want to get, but like there is something to, like, if people don't feel that fulfilled in their life, that like they wake up and that just like every day is kind of a struggle, and not enough people realize that like you've built your life to be a struggle at that point, whether like it's not really your fault, but like that's what it's become, but it is your responsibility to change things, and nothing's going to change unless you actually do something different with your life. So to do something completely different or new, like you said, it could destabilize people in a good way, where it gets them out of a rut and into a better just way of experiencing life. And yeah, I think that's an important, maybe the most important component of what something like this can do, is really kind of uplift people.
You're not just being affected by what you're conscious of either. You're being affected on many levels at the same time. To do, if you're being like fully immersed in something like that, you don't know what the rest of you, the big you, is changing in accordance with it. At the time, and sometimes it's you look back and some time you went away on some trip or something and things changed after that, and you don't realize until a long time after. So I remember that happened to me when I was younger. It was like a turning point, but I didn't realize at the time. It just put me in an extreme situation that I didn't want to be. But then it kind of had that was also an island, Corsica.
What about islands, man?
Yeah, has to be islands. Okay, yeah. Unless you're surrounded by water, don't think you're having a retreat there.
Yeah.
One thing I thought was. Go ahead, Eric.
I was just sort of envisioning, what it would look like on a sort of practical level. I think honestly, it's you just show up, you get to the big island, and then we take it from there. So everything's covered, all inclusive, food, transportation, all that. I have a really good friend of mine who's he's been a personal trainer for 20 plus years, body worker, real genius, worker of the body. And he's also led some retreats himself, and he's already agreed to come along and help support us. And so, the thing is with these kind of retreats, there will be some injuries, it's a good chance, some, bumps and bruises. And he's really good at kind of fixing anything that happens. Anything that happens to your body. He's very good at just, teaching your body to actually fix itself. That's the interesting thing. So, it would be a hard, like we said, it would be a really tough, physically grueling experience, but it would be sandwiched and punctuated by extreme relaxation, delicious food, and paradise, really.
Sold.
Yeah. Good. I hope many people agree as well, and email Eric and let us know how excited you are for something like this. So you mentioned something about like the scrapes and bumps and bruises, and I got home on, I don't even remember what day it was. That was the travel was another thing. My sleeping is still not right from it, just because whatever. But I'm looking at my hands and even my feet, and there's all like these little tiny cuts and scrapes and all that. And I was thinking to myself, like, and I think I wrote a tweet about it or something, but it was like, these are all little tiny sacrifices I made along the way. Like you had to, it shows that you did something. You were out and active, and just exposing yourself to new things, and kind of you get scraped up, and that's what it's about, in part at least, is being willing to put yourself in a little bit of a vulnerable position, and trying things, and yeah, they were all little tiny sacrifices to the island, little bits of me that got scraped off and left on trees and rocks and whatever else was there. And I bled a lot on the guy's house too, so that's left on his front porch or something.
Keith is available as an Airbnb guest anywhere in the world. Just let us know.
Yeah. No, they probably loved it. We treated that house real nice. I'm sure they appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we cleaned it up. Funny thing, we had a swimming pool at the house, and I don't think anybody went in it one time. It was just kind of not useful to us, just because the bay was right up the street, and we were at the ocean a good amount too. So I mean, why go in that pool when you have kind of a better option right close and available to you?
Yeah, you see that all the time here as well. They're like you'll see the pools just mobbed full of people, and there's a couple 100 yards to the beach. It's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I heard you mentioned, I don't know if you want to talk about it, Eric, but you met an interesting old man when you were there.
Oh yeah. I was so thing about Hawaii, at least the Big Island, is there are a lot of unofficial vendors, located along the highways. So you'll see people selling fish that they've caught that day, like mahi
puppies
or ahi tuna. What's that? Yeah, puppies.
Pit bull puppies.
Yeah, there was a stand selling pit bull puppies, and various tchotchkes and knickknacks. But I saw one guy. He was sort of that. So there's a certain type of like Hawaii transplant that you see. It's usually like a white guy who is just burned brown. He's been there for a while. Usually the hair has turned a little golden, even no matter what color hair they started with, because when you're in the sun long enough, it just gives you blonde highlights. So they're very weathered. They've the vitamin D levels probably sky high, and they're kind of it's almost like the sun when you live there, and you're of European descent, and you live in the tropics. I think it does something to your mind a little bit. You get a little crazy in a pleasant way.
Heart of darkness.
What's that?
The heart of darkness.
Yeah, kind of like that. Exactly. Yeah. And so this guy was he'd become a kava shaman. Which a kava is a South Pacific Polynesian root that it's so it was you can see it in almost any South Pacific nation. I think it was when the Polynesians migrated across the Pacific, they brought it each time. It was one of the things that they always brought because it was so central to their religious traditions. It's a root that you pound into, you dry and pound into powder and then mix with water and drink. And it relaxes you. It's lowers stress, all that type of stuff. You can buy tinctures of it on Amazon, things like that, which, I've tried that in the past and I've never really noticed much. But when I started talking to this guy, he was clearly different. First of all, the kava came in just big mason jars that he had just made, they were unlabeled. And he told me that there's a certain way you have to drink it. It's not, you don't just drink it. You have to do a whole ritual. So you have to clap, do one big clap. That's to I think that one is to center yourself in the universe. Then another clap is an invitation to the ancestors to come join you to drink the kava with you. And he said it with total sincerity. And I listened to him. And so you do that, you drink, then you clap again to kind of say thank you.
Set your intention too, right?
Yes. So before you pour the drink, you have to set an intention for the ceremony. So it could be anything. It could be, I want to have a good time with my buds, or, I want to really connect with these people I'm with on a deep level. It could be anything. And then you do the clapping, then you drink, and then you clap again to say thank you and to recenter yourself in the cosmos. And then at the end of the night, when you're done drinking, you're supposed to flip your cup over and tap it, because that tells the ancestors that it's okay. It's time to go home. We're done. You can leave me alone now. He said, if you don't do that, they'll keep you up all night because they just want to party. And so, yeah, I brought it back. Everybody was just kind of lounging around. So I went out alone and got the stuff, and we did it that night. And I did, so the intention I set was I really wanted to get to know these guys on a deep level and have a really interesting, illuminating conversation, because, as much as we've talked on the phone and over Twitter, it's not quite the same as being there in person. It's a certain level you have to, or a certain hurdle you have to kind of get over. And I will say we had a really illuminating conversation that night. So my intentions were satisfied. I don't know what your intentions were, but it was a cool experience though. And so that's something that if we do a retreat, I've already been in contact with this guy. I have his info, so we could set something up with him. So that's one thing we could do.
You got the shaman card.
Yeah, got the shaman card.
So yeah, that was a good night. That was I think the second to last night that we were there. Mm-hmm. We had a really good meal. We did the kava. I had my intention was not necessarily for that night, but just going forward, I set the intention that I wanted whatever the spirit of that was to be very uplifting for everybody that I was with. So I wanted the time that we had there to have an ongoing, lasting impact. And so I know that night, I don't know if it was the kava. We had some really strong, like coffee porter or something like that. And then I also had, I'll tell you more about the honey in a minute, Kevin. You would really appreciate it. Nice. But we got some like powerful CBD honey from another farmer's market, and I had a little bit of each of those that night. So I don't know. I was kind of in my own little world there too. So I don't know if I could attribute that to any one of those things or all three of them, because I have one beer and I'm fucking drunk because I don't really drink much. So that beer that we had was like 12% alcohol, and and then the CBD just had me spacing out, and then the kava had spirits around me. So I don't know what was going on, but it was a good time. I know that.
Did your ancestors keep you up at night?
No, I wasn't kept up at night at all. They were very kind to me.
These were the ancient Hawaiians.
Oh, it's the local ancestors. I thought you meant it was your own ones.
As I was lying in bed, drifting away to sleep in that sort of in between period, where you're kind of awake, a very, like a native Hawaiian man sitting on the lava rocks, kind of staring at me.
Nice.
And I was like, well, I wonder, maybe I didn't tap the cups loud enough, like I wasn't, so yeah. There was an ancestor there awake looking at me. I finally got him to go,
Yeah. You were visited, man. That was very cool.
Yeah.
And anyways, here you are now, you're trying to organize to take other people back. So.
Yes.
Yeah. Spoken to you.
Yeah.
So Kevin, there was well, we stopped at I don't know what you call it, a honey farm. I don't know, whatever it was. But there was so much honey on this trip, man. You would have felt like you
Oh,
were in
yeah.
heaven
Yeah.
had you been there. That CBD honey, which was like mostly CBD and a little bit of honey, and then I mean, there was honey just going on everything. Eric would have like a shot of coffee and then like a cup of honey on top of it with like collagen mixed in or something. But yeah, I thought of you, man, when we were there with all the honey being consumed.
Mm-hmm. You would have been in heaven.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think you were talking about you guys leaning out and losing a few pounds. I think I lost a few pounds just with pure envy, shaking with envy.
Oh, you got to come to the next one.
No, I will. Yeah. So
Yeah.
that'll be a very long trip for me, but it'll be good. Island hopping.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Once you're in the island, man, you can't escape. Scotland is kind of like part of an island, right?
It'd be as well being an island where I'm from. It's so remote. Well, I mean, obviously UK is an island, but there's parts of the Highlands or there's the Highlands and islands. You know, there's lots of little islands that are really old school, traditional. You know, where they still speak Gaelic language, and but that's a different kind of place to visit. I mean, it has its own landscape to deal with. You know, that'd be a very different kind of trip, especially depending on what time of year you went.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be interesting also.
Yeah,
and where I'm from is kind of, it'd be as well been an island. It's very rugged coastlines. It's effectively an island when you're there because I'm like near the corner between the west and the north coasts, so it feels like an island. And yeah, maybe we do one up there sometime in the future. That would be good.
Yeah, that would.
Cool, man.
See the old country.
Yeah. And lots of the good whiskies are on islands.
Good whiskeys, you said?
Yeah, they're on islands. So.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So most of the good ones, most of my favorites.
Islay, right? The Islay varieties.
Yeah, Isla. Yeah,
Isla.
yeah, that's what people say it. But and also Talisker, which is on Skye, Isle of Skye, and a few more. We could do a tour of those too. That would be a different kind of retreat with different kind of challenges. Yeah. Never mind checking if you've still got the wallet. So well just make sure you've still got your wallet and your well, I was going to say shoes, but you probably wouldn't have shoes anyway.
Yeah.
Although depending on the time of year, that would be a good challenge, going in the Highlands without shoes at a certain time of year. Sometimes it's just not.
I realized when I got back here how cold I was all the time.
Yeah, it does weaken you a little bit. You know.
Yeah. Oh, you know what we didn't mention? There was another person from Twitter there that we met up with, like unplanned.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Tiger. You ever see him on there?
He's
like Dr. Tiger or something.
Really skilled video guy.
Oh, the video guy. Yeah. Okay, I know who you mean. Yeah. So he lives there. Cool.
No. Yeah, he just happened to be there the same time we were. We had like a day overlap, and we hung out with him for an afternoon and went up to the beach and all that. I think he's good friends with Kellen, I think. But yeah, I've followed him for a while, and yeah, that was just kind of serendipitous. He happened to be there the same time we were. So interesting overlap.
Oh man, the next time I'm walking down the beach, I'm going to be looking at people a second time on the beach and thinking, I wonder which guy that is, what handle he has, that guy there.
Small world out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't know who's lurking, especially because most people don't even have they don't have their face up there or whatever. So it could be anybody. Kevin, you got I don't know if you were going to bring this up, but I'm going to bring it up for you. You have this new sales page up for your posture
Yes.
teaching. So I don't know if you want to talk about that a little bit, but I think it would be a good idea.
Yeah, well, anyway, if anyone's interested, it's principlesofposture.com. It's just basically a long page about what I'm teaching just now. It's more kind of like a one-off session for people rather than a series of lessons. So basically, just go and check it out. Principles of Posture. I'll maybe talk about it more in detail another day.
Okay.
You know, like maybe because there's a lot of kind of backstory is relevant to it.
We can do that maybe next week. What do you think?
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, that'd be cool. I'd like to hear.
Yeah, it'd be good to answer questions, obviously, as well, the things that come up. Because like in that page, there's quite a lot of big claims that I can't go into detail about, obviously, on one page. And the whole point of the page is to get people to have a session. Obviously, it's a sales page, not educational. But everything in it, I think I can back up in practice. But obviously, everyone does take that on faith unless they actually do it. But yeah, I'd be interested in hearing people's questions about it, which things interest people. Kind of the angle I've been talking about is the angle of I'm just calling springs, which was originally just a side issue for me. I'm just calling them posture springs. These are real things I'm talking about. They're not. It's not like imaginary, but obviously I'm giving it a sexy name. But this was just a side issue before, and then I kept mentioning it to people, and it seemed to be the thing that kept coming back to me. People would say to me that they were most interested in. So I thought, oh, okay, this is what the marketing guys mean when they say, listen to what people are saying and then change your messaging about it. So that's what I tried to do with it. When I started on Twitter, I was much more going down the kind of spiritual angle to posture, really, you'd say, kind of more kind of mind, body, spirit kind of angle. It's very different now. It's much more mechanical, biomechanical is the way I think about it and teach it now. The other side is still there, but it's not the front of it, because it works better that way. But also, it's now appears to sell better that way too. So, and also, I seem to have just fallen into a more kind of health and fitness group of people on Twitter, which I've never really thought of myself as. Not really. I don't think of myself as a fitness or a health person, a coach, or any of that stuff ever. But that's where people are at. So it's I'm just started speaking to people close to where they are rather than my own weird thing that's too far out. So anyway, check it out if anyone's interested. Principles of Posture.
Principles of Posture.
.com, yeah.
.com.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, while we're talking about domain names and stuff, Eric, can you just remind people of your email address for if they're interested in the trip?
Oh yeah, it is Retvrn, RETVRN.trip@gmail.com.
Perfect.
Yep.
Yeah, I myself just I finally got together a website for training people. So I think I just made it live yesterday or so. And yeah, I wasn't thinking about doing like online stuff a whole lot at first, but after considering it, just I think I'm open to that now. So it's walkaboutfitness.com. And it kind of matches the Discord group I have. Just put out there pretty much what I offer or want to offer to people. And if anybody's interested and wants to reach out to me, obviously I'd love to talk with anybody. So even if you're not interested in training right away and you just want suggestions or talk about fitness stuff or get ideas, I'm completely open to that. So I hope people reach out if they kind of see what I do and like it, or have seen some of this stuff that we did on the trip and like it and want more practical application in their like day-to-day life, then yeah, I'd love to hear from people.
Walkaboutfitness.com.
That's it. Yeah.
Cool.
And I promise we won't turn into a shill podcast, but it never hurts to kind of talk about what we're doing, because I think we're all kind of trying to walk the walk and not just talk about these things, but actually implement them in our life, and maybe help some other people do what we've learned or what we're interested in, and see how it could benefit them as well. That's kind of the idea of this whole podcast, or anything really, putting out ideas on Twitter. I guess that's the most important thing, is that people are acting on them, not just thinking about them.
And if you come on a trip, you'll be getting all of these principles and practices built in, fully inclusive inside the trip.
Oh yeah, you better, if you come on a trip, you better come with an empty tank, because you're going to be so full, it's going to be bursting by the end.
Eric, you got anything you want to show?
No, that's it for now. Yeah. I should have more soon to talk about my the products I'm going to be releasing. But things are being printed, and wheels are in motion, so that'll be soon. So I'm excited about that, but I'll wait till it's actually ready.
Cool. Looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Something that I tried that I think actually worked, because I didn't wear sunscreen once there, and I got maybe a little bit burned. It always faded by the next day. But Eric had brought a red light, and like an infrared light, and in the morning we would go over and kind of scan it across your body, and it really did help in terms of preventing any type of like sunburn. I mean, my nose is kind of red, and my shoulders, because we were out in like the open water on a kayak for a day, and I didn't really have anything on. So I think that affected it. But coming from New Jersey in January, when I didn't have any type of like base of tan or anything like that, to go to a tropical island and get very minimally sunburnt, mostly tan, I can attribute that a lot to, I think, doing that every morning before spending the day in the sun.
Eric, do you have a product recommendation for people?
Yeah, I use the Light
Future
Doctor.
sponsor.
No,
Sorry.
I use the Light Doctor. It's a really powerful red light infrared device.
Now, the reason why this is hilarious. The reason why this is hilarious is because it's not available anymore. So anytime someone asks him about this, he sends them to a product with a link that's unavailable.
yeah. But it's the only one I can vouch for, and yeah. But I think there are similar devices out there. You just want something that does infrared and red light. But that's another thing on these retreats is there are ways to mitigate, the sun damage. And I know a lot of people will be coming from climates that don't have a lot of sun at the moment. Like we all did. We all showed up pretty white and pale. But everybody escaped without much of a burn. I don't think anybody put on any sunblock. Not that I'm against, there's good sunblock out there. I'm not opposed to it. But so, it's we'll take care of you there. Well, no guarantees, but we will do our best to utilize the latest science and technology to improve your resistance to everything the island can throw at you.
And we used ourselves as guinea pigs pretty much. So yeah, we tried it all first before we unleashed it on anybody else.
Exactly. I was I'm thinking one thing I was just thinking would be cool to do is kind of make little jet lag care packages for everybody, based on where they're returning to, like supplement stacks that can help. I'm like, you take this when you get home, you do this, just to reduce the impact of jet lag, because it'll really depend on where you're going, but I think that would really help people. So you can kind of hit the ground running when you get back to normal life.
Yeah, because sometimes if they have a week off and they go on something for a week, it can put you off going in the first place. If you've just got the 7 days, it's too tight either end. And if you need to go back to normal life, but to go back and function in normal life, but also to not lose the energy you have from the retreat after.
Exactly.
Because you can really lose it quickly if you just get swamped by normal life again.
Totally. Yep.
Yeah, no, everyone's had this experience. They went on some kind of weekend seminar or whatever that everyone thinks has changed their life, and then Monday afternoon, no one cares.
Yeah. You got to keep that momentum. You got to kind of try to maintain homeostasis as much as possible.
Along the same lines, Eric, I was just thinking to myself yesterday as we picked people up from the airport to give them some type of concoction, just introduce them to the island right off the boat or right off the plane.
That's outstanding idea.
Yeah. You could enjoy it in the car ride back to the mansion or whatever it may be.
Yeah. Well, good. I like this brainstorming live about the future. That's good.
Yeah.
It looks like your little Hawaiian ancestor man on the rock has set a few things in motion for us.
I think he has. Thank you.
Yeah, nothing but grateful for that.
Thank you,
ancestor.
Yep. All right.
And underwater rock workouts will probably be a meme now.
Yeah. Oh yeah. They're a thing already. They're actually I've seen people do them and everything before, usually
usually in pools with like dumbbells. I know Laird Hamilton. Yeah. The rock is cool because you're kind of, it's jagged. Like the rock we were using had some sea urchins on it, so we had to kind of angle them away from us. You had to be always aware of where the sea urchin was.
Right.
So there's an element of danger and maneuverability. So
something slightly less dangerous than a rock with sea urchins. People could do this also with them. You could pick up a girl and pull her around in the sea as well.
A little too buoyant, You need that.
It'd be more fun though.
You need that density, yeah. It's certainly good training for that. For hauling the girl around, for sure.
Yeah. It'll be like people didn't even we'll pull the old switcheroo where we just switch the rock out for a girl at one point and people won't even notice.
You have to remember to take the girl back though.
Yeah, you can't drop her.
Better be there at the end of the trip.
Always got to bring her back.
Locals.